G'day and welcome to Aussievision. I'm Dale, and I should probably say good morning because it's still quite early here, and we are looking back at the first day of rehearsals in Malmö. So there were 7 entries that did their first rehearsals. We saw photographs and we saw a little bit of TikTok vision. So not a lot to go from at this stage, but we're starting to get an idea of what the staging is going to look like for these artists. So let's go through them in the order that they actually went out on stage. So let's start with Cyprus and Aussie Cilia Capsis. So no surprise to see a lot of choreography in this performance. Of course, this is always what it was going to be about, and that's the song, right? So it actually is in quite simple, but simple and effective. Like she's wearing the white with there's a little bit of sort of sparkly on it. We've got the backing dancers. They eventually take their top off at some stage, which works for this song I think a lot. And I really like the LED backdrop with the different kind of swirly kind of blues and whatnot. It reminds you a little bit of the backdrop during those blues of Andrew Lambrou last year, which really popped against him. So again, they're not doing anything over the top here. Let the performance speak for itself. That white across on that blue, that white on that kind of more red background is going to work really well. And this is going to be about her performance. So, I mean, people may expect it to see the kind of gold outfit from the video. I mean, it's white now. Who knows? It might change, but I think they'll go out with what it is, of course. And it looks like she performs and sings and dances really well together. I think she looks amazing. I mean, I think she looked about 5 years older, like in a good way, because she's only 17. And she looked, fantastic actually. And I think she'll come across really well down that camera. Great opener. And it just kind of just does what it's meant to do on the tin, right? And I think there's a lot of kind of kooky stuff coming up. And I think just go out there with a med pop banger, deliver it. Don't need anything over the top to distract from that performance. So I think it looks really good. Well done, Cilia. Well done, the Australian, of course. All right, then we had Serbia next with Teodora. Nothing new here, of course, but always elevated on the Eurovision stage. I thought some of those images looked stunning, actually, that we saw, but I wouldn't expect anything less. It was a very atmospheric song, and looks like they've captured that. They've got that big rock prop that she kind of lays on, it comes out, and there's a lot of smoke and everything going on. So it just looks very much like her national final performance, but just kind of like amped up, of course, for Eurovision. I'm not the biggest fan of this song, so I may not always be the best judge of it, but I do think whatever they're trying to do in terms of capturing atmosphere and letting her just perform the song itself, I think it looks like it's working. So if that's for you, I think you'll be fine with it. It's just not for me. All right, who's up next? Lithuania, Sylvester Belt. Now, this looks like a much slicker performance than we saw for his national final, but again, very similar. Liking the colours, the reds, particularly a lot of use of throughout, but it really gives that kind of electro feel of the song. I really like what the backing dancers are wearing, like the things on their head and stuff like that. I think that's really been elevated. And it just looks slick. We've come Cyprus, with this kind of, banger that we've probably seen before, but done well. Serbia with this kind of like, style ballad. And then you just come in with this really modern European, Eastern European, great club pop. And it just works. It's just electronic and it's great. And the little sleep dancing. So again, nothing new, but just elevated. And that's what we kind of just expected for this one. So I think thumbs up there for Sylvester Belt as well. Now we had Ireland next, I believe. We did have Ireland next, and Bambi Thug. And this was probably the one a lot of people were really interested in seeing how it turned out. They look like quite striking in that makeup, and the outfit is absolutely fantastic. I think that really works. There's a lot kind of going on around the shoulder part. That's probably the only thing. Starting in that circle of candles, I think is quite clever, just to kind of come right in. And then if you're doing something with this and they're all lighting up, I think that will look really, really good. Interesting about the dancer. One of the only things I liked about, because look, I'm not a fan of the song, but I respect the art and I know people really do like this. One of the only things I did like was the two dancers in the national final performance, and now that's been replaced by this shirtless guy, covered in dark stuff or whatever. And obviously he kind of emerges, and then they kind of do that, the softer part of the song. So it could definitely work, and it does keep it tight. But I loved the movement in the national final. But we're not at the national final now. We're at Eurovision, and it's just very visually striking. It definitely is very visually striking, and apparently it says like "crown the witch" behind, which I think is a really clever use of the word and playing on it. And Baby Thug is really playing up the whole witch aesthetic and really leaning in, which you've got to do. You can't half-ass things at Eurovision. You've got to go in full full witchiness to this whole thing and really capture people from it. So it looks like they've done that. I need to see what this looks like visually to really kind of feel like to kind of judge it, because it's all about a visual performance as well as a song. Particularly if you some people who might get turned off by a little bit of the really heavier parts of the song, and I think we need to see how it's going to go from the heavy to the light, which is one of the big positives of the song. So. Fans of Bambi Thug seem really happy with it, and that's the main thing, because I'm not the fan of the song. That's just me, but I do think this could be very visually arresting on stage for people who may be sitting on the fence or will lean into it more about the visual rather than the song itself. So we'll wait and see, but I think there's some really promising elements there. But yeah, I'm funny on that. I'm not sure about the shirtless dancer. I just have to wait and see how that works out. All right, Ukraine next. We've got another big prop. This is reminding me of another year where we had lots of big props. It doesn't sound like it's a rock like Serbia is. More like a sloping thing, maybe somewhere between Victoria from Bulgaria and last year's one from Armenia. Now, I think the outfits look stunning. And at first, with some of the photographs, I wasn't sure about Aliona's one, but when I saw the TikTok, I think it really looks fantastic. And I think they capture the light, so they look gold at points, but then actually they're kind of like a silvery, almost like beigey silvery thing. I don't know, but I think it looks really good, and I love obviously that they're moving onto the rock. They're laying down on the floor towards the end, and I think they're capturing the emotion of that song. I've always had Ukraine as a dark horse to win the whole thing, and I think it looks like they're pulling something together here that's going to capture the moments of the song a lot more, as you'd expect when you go to the big stage of Eurovision. So yeah, I liked what I saw, definitely. I think Jerry looks incredible, and I think from what we've seen so far, it's going to be great. This is again going to be until we see it visually. We don't have a lot to go on at this stage, but what I've seen so far, I've really liked, and I think Ukraine will bring it. They always bring it, and they always bring it, particularly with staging. So watch out for Ukraine. Poland next. This is interesting. I can't tell if I really like this or I don't because there's a lot happening. They've leaned into the chest thing with the big chest kind of towers, and she's got those big red shoulder pad things, and then goes down to a smaller outfit. But look, it does look visually, striking. That's for sure. The whites are really good, and apparently she lays down the floor and rides a horse or something, which sounds interesting. But go for it. Have Poland thrown too much again at staging? They have a tendency not to do the Chanel thing and take one thing off before you leave the house. They add more and more on. It does look like, again, there's a lot going on here, and that could be fantastic. Or what we've tended to see with Poland, it's too much. But they've certainly leaned in hard to this. They've certainly put a lot of effort into the staging. So I think, obviously, they've got to give themselves a chance, because I think they were starting to struggle there, particularly with this bunch of songs. They're probably maybe one of the lesser chances, even though Poland always do well with the public vote. So I think they've thrown a lot at it, and let's see it pays off. I think some of the images look great with the world and everything behind. So yeah, I'm interested to see how that one turns out, but I'm yet to be convinced. And we really shouldn't be convinced on anything other than maybe uplifted versions of national finals that we've seen in the past, because it's something to go on. And finally, we have Croatia, our second favourite in Eurovision. And looks like, again, we have a very similar national final performance, but just executed bigger and bolder. And apparently a lot more slicker from what the Eurovision Live blog was saying. So that's great to hear. We've gone out with the kind of traditional sleeves. They look like doily sleeves rather than really frilly, which is a good choice. We don't want people going to the cardia references, which people will tend to. This is not about what is right. This is about how Europe perceives it. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter if it's traditional. It matters what people perceive because they're the ones voting. And I think it's a little like people will still make references, but it doesn't look as obvious as it did maybe in the national final. But it's doilies everywhere, right? That's kind of cool. And I love the vest. It looks really, really, really good. And I love that it's gone with the red. I think that's really nice. Looks like the dancing is slicker from the TikTok, which is great. And it looks like there's a neon animals, there's going to be the neon cat. So hopefully that just looks really good. Like, I think there's elements that I really liked about the Dora staging, but yeah, hopefully they capture him in the moment really well. So nothing massively new from that. Sounds like it's just a lot slicker, which is good, We don't want to go OTT, let the song speak for itself. But we'll wait and see. It's all going to be about his stagecraft, his stage presence, and it looks like he was really bringing it. So I hope so because I really like the song and I hope it does well. But again, I think we're gonna have to wait to see the visuals, the actual the song performed to really judge that one because it's more about that rather than the look so much. But he does look good. All right, that was 7. I'd have to say for me the standout. I thought Ukraine looked good. And I thought in terms of elevating their national final, I thought Lithuania looked good. And I have to say, I think Cyprus is doing what they're meant to do. And I think Ireland's doing what they're meant to do. And I don't think anyone had a bad day at all. I do think Poland's my question mark. And just a little bit of elements of Ireland I want to see more come together. But we'll wait and see. Anyway, that was day 1. And look forward to discussing more about just photos and TikToks in the next